Hi, and welcome to the CF Strong podcast. CF Strong covers the successes and challenges faced by those living with cystic fibrosis. You'll hear real first-person stories, conversations with health professionals, friends, and partners. Just a heads up that guests in this episode may share their personal views about treatments and health management, but please remember this is not medical advice and you should always follow the advice of your clinic team regarding your health.
My name's Keegan Bakker. I'm a radio presenter and cystic fibrosis community care ambassador. Today my guest is Peter Oxford, a dancer and entrepreneur. He's certainly faced some challenges throughout his life living with CF, but definitely has not let them stop him from some truly incredible achievements. With his dance career and his own dance studio, he's travelled the world, earned industry accolades, and inspired many, many young people, including some with CF themselves. That is just scratching the surface. Let's hear the full story from Peter himself.
I'm Peter Oxford. I'm based in Sydney. I was born here. I've lived here all my life. And I'm 50 years old now with CF. I grew up as a dancer and then I operated a dance studio for over 12 years. And during that time, I started and created the Australian Dance Championships. And that sort of took over the dance studio life and decided to give that up and take on Showcase Australian Dance Championships full time. It is basically runs my life and it's been going for, this is 26 years now.
So it's safe to say you've been pretty successful in that field. Any particular achievements, just career-wise, or anything that stands out as being highlights?
As a dancer, I was very competitive as a child. I grew up in the shopping centre circuit as a dancer. I went on to be the first Australian to win back-to-back titles in Chicago, Las Vegas and Orlando at the American dance competitions over there. Then learning about their concept, brought it back to Australia. I've had shows that I've produced and choreographed go to China, Malaysia, the US. Very successful with my dance studio with the Showbiz Kids, the show group I had. And obviously they're moving on to Showcase, becoming the largest national dance competition and the first of its kind ever created in Australia, giving countless opportunities to dancers to then progress onto their careers all over the world.
So, I mean, that's incredibly impressive, the fact not only the success that you've had career-wise, but also very travel involved. It's got a very international flavour to it and you've been all over the world. And being someone who's had or has CF, I can imagine it would have been a challenge. Something you've had to actively manage, or has it just been in the background?
It has been in the background. A lot of my travel that I did in my early 20s, I did on my own. I remember going to the States when I was 20 years old and Canada for like 4 weeks and traveling my own. So obviously, you have to take care of yourself on when you're traveling. So, that was never sort of an issue. Oh, I can't travel. I've got CF. Oh, it's going to be hard. It was just, okay, pack up the medication, get the nebulizer that will work in that country and travel, see the world. And that was always what I wanted to do. And, if I did travel with someone, it wasn't an issue for them to travel with me. There's probably only been once I got sick overseas, and that was in LA. I actually got sick on the flight traveling to LA. I got swine flu and ended up in Long Beach Hospital ER. And the doctors are like, you need to get out of here. Another time I was in Singapore eating dinner. We'd been at Universal Studios all day. And obviously I hadn't drank enough fluid because it's very humid over there.
Yeah.
About to eat dinner, really nice dinner outdoors. I coughed blood.
Oh.
And you can't panic. So we're trying to get me back to the hotel to take the medication you can to stop bleeding. But then we did stop that.
Yeah.
But I had to go to Bangkok the next day. So I actually had to fly, and you're not supposed to fly when you've had a hemoptysis, but I did it.
Wow. I think it's, I don't know if stubbornness is the right word, but you certainly have that kind of attitude that you don't sort of can't press on and see you're sort of here now and it seems to have worked for you. But was there any planning beforehand, like when you were going on travel?
Yeah, I was always doing tune-ups before I'd go if it was going to be a long trip. So they knew, like, he's going away, like, have a tune-up before you go, because that's pretty stock standard for someone who's going to travel.
Yeah.
I've always been told, carry enough antibiotics with you, try and get home if you have to. That's never been the case except for that one time. I just find that, when you're out of your own environment, sometimes you are a bit healthier because it's open mind never matters sometimes.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it. Fantastic perspective. To go back early days, so your childhood and when you were first diagnosed, tell us a bit about how your childhood was.
Well, I was adopted.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. And my adoptive parents found out I had CF when I was like a year old, which, had usual symptoms as a child being diagnosed. I do actually know who my natural parents are now. I have actually met them and still very much keep in contact with my natural dad now. He's actually living in Vietnam. I've got a lot of family in Melbourne who are from my natural side of my dad, and do have lots of contact with them. Growing up with CF, I started dancing at the age of 4 because that was obviously a good exercise tool and I wanted to dance. So that kept me really healthy.
Yeah.
I didn't have a hospital admission until I was 15.
Right.
So I was very, very lucky that I just kept healthy the whole time. I mean, it's also my parents didn't wrap me in cotton wool. It's like, just get on with it. We just got to do your treatment. It's part of your life, but, you still got to live your life as well and don't dwell on what you've got.
Was dance something that you did as a result of the CF for the exercise, or was it something that you did just because you wanted to do it and it just happened to have that benefit?
Both. It was actually I wanted to do it. And then, let's put him into dancing. It's going to help. It's exercise. Because exercise was always encouraged.
And so growing up, teen years and moving on through that. So you said you had your first hospital admission when you were 14.
As a child, I did struggle with weight gain as well because you are dancing, so you're using a lot of energy. It was thrown at me at 14 because I wasn't developing, but I was very underweight, that if you don't start putting on weight and eating, you can't dance because I was having muscle wastage. And that's sort of not good for someone with needing to function. And I didn't understand. So you sort of develop this food issue in the end, so paranoid about eating enough food. And a lot of CFs do go through that. We are told we've got to eat, but sometimes you just can't eat. And you calorie count. And I still calorie count to this day. I'm still very, very conscious about my weight.
Yeah.
Putting on weight is so hard for CF, and being told you've lost weight, you just want to, please don't tell me that I know. I can feel it. So even when I'm in hospital, when they weigh me, it's actually written in my notes, and all the nursing staff know, do not tell him his weight.
Just keep it a secret.
But I've been good this year. I've put on 7 kilos this year because I'm taking that Simdeco.
Right.
So
congratulations.
This is good. That's a record.
Any positive story to come out of 2020 is even more magnified because,
I hate to, people really don't like me saying this, but COVID-19 has been my best friend this year. I've actually embraced this year as being one of the best years I've had for a while.
I love that perspective. How come?
Well, when we got to end of January, I had literally done 27 days straight working from the Gold Coast to Perth to Christchurch and back, running 3 national finals. I was exhausted. Tried to have a tune-up in December with all the bushfires, and the smoke didn't work. So I was really run down. I ended up in hospital at the end of it. I just said, look, I need time off work. How can I do this running my own business? Don't know how we're going to do that. And then COVID hit. So I got to have time off. The JobKeeper kicks in, grants kick in. So we were saved by that as a business that I could then take time off, and I had to have time off. So now we're getting back into the run of things again. The pressure's off. What I had to do this year, I haven't had to go on tour this year. And that's been a blessing for me, especially for my health, mental and physical health.
You seem like you're a very high achiever and you're very driven to succeed. Are you one of those people, would you describe yourself as someone who doesn't stop unless something forces you to stop and take time out?
I would say I'm a very high achiever, and I'm very competitive with myself.
Right, yeah.
I've noticed that now that we've sort of come back to sort of work, and it's not my normal work schedule, I write lists. And those lists last me for the week, but then I have to write a list on the weekend of what I've got to do around the house on the weekend. Otherwise, I can't sit and watch TV all weekend. It just drives me insane. I end up watching CNN all weekend or Sky News. And if you ask about COVID-19, I can tell you everything. So I've just had to make sure that I keep busy because my mind is so active. It just never stops. And I've been a lot fitter this year because I've got more exercise in too since we've sort of had to all stop our normal routine of life.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. I mean, it's great to hear someone put that perspective on something that's been, pretty objectively. Everyone says 2020 has been pretty rough, but that's beautiful that you can have that viewpoint on it and look at, well, I don't want to say silver linings because it sounds like it's much more impactful and significant than that, but look at it in a different light, I guess.
I just had to turn into a positive and go, how can I make this work for me? We are in lockdown, that period of time, and what can I do to take advantage of this? And that was right, this is your time to rest. This is your time to heal. Do it. And I did.
Has that been a viewpoint that you've had or a philosophy, a strategy that you've used throughout your life at any point, particularly with regards to having CF? And obviously that comes with a series of challenges. Have you had times before?
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm sick in hospital, it's get me out of here. I hate being sick. What can I do to get better? What do I have to do? And that's always been known by my team at Westmead Hospital that he wants to get better. He won't just sit in that room. It's okay, we'll go to the gym twice a day if we have to.
Yep.
You don't want to be sick. It just doesn't work for you. Do whatever you can to change into a positive and embrace the whole time in hospital. The other thing is don't try and get out of the hospital till you're ready. Stay in there till you're well. Don't ever say, I hate being in hospital. That's the wrong approach to have. You need to go in hospital and say, I love being in hospital because it's going to make me better. They're going to make me feel a lot better. I need this medication. I love being in hospital. That's what you need to turn it into. Don't say hate. That's not good. It's not also a bit of an insult to the nursing staff.
I don't know how involved. I know you've contributed to raising awareness and supporting CF, particularly in Australia, and I presume you're involved in the community to a degree. Do you have people reach out to you at all, particularly younger people? I mean, you've achieved so much and you've got a fantastically positive perspective. You must be a real role model for people, particularly younger people who are dealing with CF.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been counselling people since I was 14, motivating them, especially in the CF community. When we were in hospital together, we were allowed to hang around each other then. So I was always, come on, you can do this, come to the gym, turning everything to a positive. I've been fortunate enough that at my dance competition, there's been a lot of CF kids who've been coming to do the competition and their parents have either not known by the time they get there and read my bio in the program or known before, and it's been there. Like, oh, my God, you've got to speak to my child. And the most interesting thing once when a child came up to me who had CF and talking to them, and they don't believe you've got CF because it's like, who is this person? He can't have CF. I pulled a bottle of the thing of crayon out of my pocket and I said to the child, do you take your crayon? And showed him the crayon. That child was blown away. It was like, Mum, he has the same as me. And I said, you've got to take these every time you eat. I said, I can't eat unless I take them. And she said to me, and I didn't even know what I was, just saying the normal things to them. And she said, thank you for saying that because it's so hard to get her to take her crayon when we're out. And by you showing that shows that someone who's up on that stage presenting awards and running a dance competition still has to take their crayon. And that's something I thought, okay, well, that's my duty of care, like my role in the community of having CF. And if I get odd emails or calls from someone, can you talk to this parent? I will always do it. It's called peer support.
But I also wouldn't say, it's not a duty or not a responsibility that is on you because it's something to deal with. There's so many challenges that would come with it to deal with anyway. So I wouldn't undersell the fact that it's something that you've gone above and beyond to do and to be that role model and allow people to sort of be inspired by you and to support people, as you say, from early days in the community since your first hospital admission. I think it's quite a fantastic thing. Sorry, that's not a question. That was just a statement. Early days when you were a teenager in your 20s, in the dancing community, did the CF thing come up at all? Did you have to explain it to people? Were there any sort of adversities there, or was it?
It did make it hard to get jobs in the dance industry because it was sort of known out there he has CF. He could get sick on a contract and break it, and we'd have to send him home. So that was always put upon me. It's like, well, you're not going to get a job with this company. They know you've got CF. I do remember going for an audition once for a musical, and on the casting list, I happened to see it, and everyone's name was on it, and next to it has cystic fibrosis. I'm like, well, who in the hell told them that, and why is that written on there?
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty slack. I was just wiped out in the very beginning of it, so I had no chance.
I know. I get the feeling that awareness, particularly in Australia, of cystic fibrosis, I'd say, even over the past 10 or 20 years, seems to have become a lot more general and widespread. People are now sort of more aware of it. I don't know, your perception might be completely different as someone who was much closer to it. Do you feel like things have changed in terms of understanding or?
Absolutely. It is more talked about. It is more known. People know what the symptoms are. Especially when I do say I've got it, oh, really? And then they know someone who's had it or they've known someone in their family. So there's always a connection. And definitely when you see just more things in the news about it, and that's obviously with awareness and all the hard work we've done, and not being afraid to be known to have CF. A few weeks ago, I was watching ABC News and Norman Swan came on the TV and he said, I feel sorry for people with cystic fibrosis because they're out in the community. If they cough now, people think they've got COVID-19. So that was pretty good that he narrowed in on our condition, stood up for us and felt sorry for us.
Yeah. And different for you, I mean, was there more explanation for you when you were younger and in the earlier years with other people of having to sort of tell them and educate them about what it was and what particularly in a professional sense, I guess, doing dance?
Well, first of all, you want to know it's not contagious. And, we can go on to the other issue when I was in my 20s where people thought I had AIDS.
That's a whole other can of worms, and I don't know if you want to talk about that or if you're comfortable talking about that or not, but that was Yeah, so what was that kind of like? That would have been a whole other challenge altogether, not just from CF.
Yeah, when I was in my 20s, obviously someone with CF, we do have a bit of a weight issue, as I mentioned before. And back then, we did have the AIDS crisis in Australia or worldwide, and I had a lot of people say to me, do you have AIDS? And trying to explain to them, no, I don't. I have cystic fibrosis. And they're like, yeah, sure. That's probably the only time I felt really damaged or affected, because I'd grown up in a bubble, and then obviously this pandemic happened in the world, and being gay and living in that community, then you sort of get labelled as, oh, he's got it too. So I did have to fight that issue. I didn't even have it. It was like I had CF, so that did cause me a bit of grief and heartache, actually. And sort of why I go into a relationship, you've got to tell someone. So if I've gone into a relationship, I've always been told and taught by professionals, tell them straight away, don't hold back. Don't ever hold back. Try and get that out as soon as you can. If it doesn't go into the relationship, too bad. You've just educated one extra person. And I've never, ever had an issue with that.
Do you think today things have changed? Do you think it would be easier, particularly for a young gay person who has cystic fibrosis? I know everyone's got a different set of circumstances, but generally, do you think had you been going through that right now, it would be a different world?
Absolutely. There's more network now. There's more support. It's more general in the community, and it's this is what you need to know, and this is what we're discovering now, is that someone with CF needs to get their sexual health check done. I don't care who you are. Get it done as part of your annual review, because you could have an ongoing, I've heard this story, you could have an ongoing chest infection, but you've actually got something else going on in the background that hasn't been picked up because they haven't thought of it, because it's not part of the regime of annual tune-ups or checkups. Just get it done because you don't want to have a problem. And just there's plenty of people you can talk to. It's so mainstream now. It's just so normal to have that talked about, and that's something that we need to get over. We are now living in an era that there is infectious diseases out there, and it's not a shameful how you would actually contract them. It's just how it happens. It's what it is. And don't be afraid to come out, because there's plenty of support out there, and be proud of who you are and be proud of having CF.
And that support and that network and those resources you're talking about, you yourself are no small part of that. The fact that you're on this podcast and we're talking about it and you're acting as an absolute role model for people like that is really is amazing. So thank you very much. I will say before we go, it's just 2020, I know for a lot of people, obviously not you because you look at the positives of everything. For I'm sure a lot of people out there, particularly people who have CF, either people with CF or families or carers, what's the Peter Oxford spin? What last words, what parting messages would you have for everyone, just as a little bit of positivity and an outlook?
We're going to get through this. It's just a time in our life, a time in history. We will get through this. We've got a great government. We've got a great health system. And just believe in yourself, believe in the government, educate yourself. If you start getting worried about something, it just means you don't know the answers. So educate yourself. That's what I've done the whole time. And keep your support network going around you. Don't ever feel lonely, because if you are lonely, just read a book. Actually embrace that period of time. There's a lot of people who are lonely at the moment. Don't feel sorry for yourself, because that's when you can just fall apart.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you. So really appreciate you taking the time and everything that you continue to do as a role model in the CF community.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the CF Strong podcast. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your favourite podcast app so you don't miss the next podcast. We'd really appreciate if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts to help other people find it, or share us with your friends. Also, we should take a moment to remind you the views expressed in CF Strong podcasts may not be reflective of Cystic Fibrosis Community Care's viewpoints. The podcasts are designed to share information and provide insight into the lives of those living with cystic fibrosis around Australia. This podcast was made possible with support from the Australian Government and was produced by CF Community Care and CF Western Australia. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.